My husband had an affair with the female college student he was sponsoring, and they encountered a severe car accident while eloping. The doctor stated that the surgery fee would be 100,000 yuan and urged me to pay promptly for the operation. I appeared anxious and said, all the money at home was taken by them, where would I get the funds? However, the medical staff and police searched the accident vehicle thoroughly, but the box containing the money had mysteriously disappeared. Without money, the surgery could not proceed. Suppressing the corners of my mouth that were desperately trying to curl upward, I cried and said, then we can only give up the treatment. The saying, scoundrels live for 1,000 years, is indeed true. The despicable man and vile woman possessed tenacious vitality. Despite no surgery, they both survived. However, the man ended up completely paralyzed, with only his eyes able to move, while the woman lost one leg and could not walk for a short period. After the doctor's pronouncement, I quickly accepted this outcome with satisfaction. Fine. Having a living dead husband is actually quite beneficial, at least I won't have to share the inheritance with my in-laws. Thinking this way, I suddenly hoped he would live well and not die from anger too soon. After crying in the ward for 3 hours and successfully gaining the sympathy of all medical staff, I returned home under the pretext of packing things, feeling parched. Once there, I devoured 4 pounds of crayfish alone and finally felt revived. Acting is truly exhausting. Those without professional training simply cannot manage it. Different fields are worlds apart. Fortunately, the results were favorable. Now, in everyone's eyes, I am a pitiful woman abandoned by her husband, who repays evil with kindness, desperately wanting to save him but lacking the funds, crying inconsolably in the hospital. But if they knew that the pitiful woman in their eyes was at that moment retrieving a box worth over 100 million from the safe, I wonder what they would think. In any case, I was extremely delighted. In the 5 years of marriage to Jason, I strived to play the role of a good wife, gentle, considerate, hard-working without complaint, handling all household chores, yet I ended up being abandoned. Fortunately, it was precisely because of this that Jason had no defenses against me, facilitating my substitution ploy. He did not even realize that I had swapped the money box. Now, the only 2 people who knew one had become a living dead, and the other, though surviving tenaciously, could be proven by the courtyard surveillance that Jason had left with the money box to find Cindy. With the box now missing, it must be that the 2 had hidden it. What does that have to do with me? Thinking of this, I contentedly placed the money box back and slept until the sun was high in the sky, only to be awakened by pounding on the door. Upon opening it, several police officers stood outside. Sophia, right? Someone has accused you of intentional homicide and embezzlement of property. Please come with us for investigation. I protested loudly, Officer, I am a law-abiding citizen, this is absolute slander. Cindy laboriously maneuvered her wheelchair from behind the police, pointing at me and cursing, Sophia, stop pretending. You stole our money and maliciously refused to pay the hospital surgery fees, trying to kill us. You are utterly vicious. Seeing her audacity to curse me, I was speechless. What do you mean your money? The lost money is clearly from my home. I turned directly to the police, pitifully saying, Officer, it is this woman who deceived my husband into taking all our family assets, abandoning me, and now she is the villain filing the first complaint. You must seek justice for me. On this matter, Cindy knew she was in the wrong. She panicked and said to the police, Officer, do not be deceived by this woman. If she truly cared about her husband, how could she be in the mood to sleep soundly at home while he is in the hospital? She clearly intends to harm us. Facing the police's suspicious gaze, I immediately appeared aggrieved. Yesterday, I came back to pack my husband's things. Seeing his belongings evoked memories, and I could not help but cry all night. Exhausted from crying, is it a problem if I slept for a while? I had anticipated that not going to the hospital would arouse suspicion, so last night I deliberately watched Qiangyao dramas all evening. The Mute Bride was truly tragic. It made me cry uncontrollably. Thus, my eyes were now red and swollen, looking wretched. Complimenting my words, the police immediately believed me. But Cindy refused to accept it, seeing my eloquent speech, she immediately reminded the police to investigate the money box. Facing this issue, I appeared even more innocent. How could the money be with me? I only went to the hospital after receiving the doctor's call about your accident. I never touched the car throughout, so how would I know where the money is? Seeing Cindy about to speak, I quickly added, the surveillance in my courtyard can prove that my husband left driving with the box to find Cindy, but the medical staff said the box vanished from the car, and now my husband is unconscious. So, I also suspect someone embezzled our family's money. Although I did not name names, Cindy astutely realized I was referring to her and immediately retorted loudly, do not make baseless accusations. I got into the car and immediately had the accident. I only woke up this morning. How could it be me who took it? Why couldn't it be you? He was bringing the money box to find you, now it's missing, he's in critical condition in the hospital, and you are the only one who contacted the box. Doesn't that make you the prime suspect? My reasoning was logical and evidence-based. Cindy was nearly infuriated to death, yet she could not refute it because what I said was factual. Although she was puzzled clearly, when Jason picked her up, she saw the money box. Why did the medical staff say it had vanished after the accident? Although Cindy did not know what happened and could not prove the box's disappearance was related to me, she was convinced that I was behind it. I was well aware of Cindy's thoughts and was also puzzled about where the box I swapped for Jason had gone. Clearly, I had given Jason a substituted box, so why was it not found at the accident scene? However, now was not the time to dwell on this. Instead, I continued to cast suspicion on Cindy. Thinking this, I proceeded, moreover, in the same accident, my husband was severely injured, while you only suffered minor injuries and will soon be up and about. If you really took the money, it would almost be impossible to prove otherwise. Cindy never imagined that, having accused me, she would now become the prime suspect. She immediately said to the police, do not believe this woman. She is clearly trying to confuse the issue. I sneered, which of us is confusing the issue? My husband had the accident while bringing money to you, now the box is missing, and you are casting suspicion on me? Is it wrong for me to suspect you? After all, you have repaid kindness with enmity by seducing my husband to abandon his wife for you. Is it problematic for me to say you are shifting blame to clear yourself? The police instantly agreed with me, as what I said was factual. Cindy had indeed enticed my husband to abscond with the funds. Seeing she could not out-argue me, Cindy shouted loudly, officer, do not listen to her nonsense. This must be her doing. She has hidden the money. I remained unperturbed. Claims require evidence. Do you have any? Turning to the police, I said, officer, can I sue her for defamation? The police, annoyed by our quarrel, met my gaze and stated formally, yes, but it must wait until this matter is investigated clearly. Good. I believe the officers will clear my name and bring the real culprit to justice. My expression was profoundly sincere. Combined with my swollen red eyes, the police felt a bit more sympathy for me. Recalling Cindy's actions, they turned and reprimanded her. Cindy was filled with suppressed anger but, lacking evidence, could only swallow it. After taking statements at the police station, I was ordered not to leave the city until the investigation was complete. Naturally, I would not leave, as my home is here. Upon learning I was going to the hospital to visit Jason, the police said they would go to see if a statement could be taken. Cindy shamelessly followed along. Entering the ward and seeing Jason awake, I rushed over and said, husband, rest assured. The police will uncover the truth, bring the person who paralyzed you to justice, and recover our family's money. Upon hearing me mention the money, Jason's eyes widened as he stared at me. But now a living dead, only his eyes could move. He was so anxious that his eyes turned bloodshot. In a spot hidden from others, I flashed him a smug smile. Jason was enraged, realizing I was behind it, and immediately shifted his eyes to Cindy. Seeing this, I immediately deliberately misinterpreted it to the police. Officers, look quickly. My husband is so angry seeing Cindy that his eyes are red. He must know something. It's not me, I didn't. Cindy tried to explain, but I quickly interrupted, you dare say you didn't. If you hadn't done it, why would my husband glare at you with such hatred? Cindy, a woman like you who repays kindness with enmity will surely face retribution. The police now clearly agreed with me, viewing Cindy with suspicion. Sensing this, Cindy was nearly frantic. Officer, I really didn't. She is the culprit. I remained composed. Do you have evidence? Naturally, Cindy had no evidence. She could only glare at me angrily, helpless. Seeing Jason unable to give a statement, the police left. After they departed, I quickly drove away from the hospital. Jason and I started our marriage with nothing. After the wedding, we relied on my parents' connections and support to start a company. As life improved, Jason became ungrateful, not only getting involved with Cindy but also arranging for her to live in one of our houses. The rental issues for these houses were always handled by Jason. Thus, I only learned 2 months ago that he had placed Cindy there. Previously, I held back because the timing was not right. Now that Jason was a living dead, I would not be polite. I directly called movers to throw all of Cindy's belongings downstairs and change the locks. When Cindy got out of the taxi, she happened to see the movers discarding her things. Shocked, she widened her eyes. What are you doing? With arms crossed, I replied matter-of-factly, of course, cleaning out the filth in my house that doesn't belong here. Hearing me repeatedly say my house, Cindy blurted out, what do you mean your house? This is my house. Jason gave it to me. Seeing her shamelessly say this, I admired her thick skin. By then, a crowd had gathered to watch. In front of everyone, I directly exposed her true nature. Cindy, touch your conscience. If not for my financial support, you couldn't even attend high school, but how did you repay me? You stole my husband. You deceived him into taking all our assets and eloping with you. Heaven is watching human actions. Aren't you afraid of retribution? Cindy had lived here for several years, many neighbors had seen her and naturally observed her coming and going with my husband. Originally thinking they were a couple, upon hearing my words, they realized she was the mistress. Isn't this repaying kindness with enmity? This woman is so shameless. Amid the neighbors' discussions, I directly produced the property deed. Open your eyes and see clearly, this house is in my name. I'm cleaning my house now. Is there a problem? Cindy's eyes turned red with anger, but she could not utter a word. Seeing her furious yet helpless, I was nearly ecstatic. Yes. I did it on purpose. Before learning of Jason's affair, I already knew the company was about to collapse due to poor management. Originally, I planned to seek help from my parents, but upon discovering Jason's infidelity, I immediately abandoned that idea. Because such a scoundrel does not deserve it. I remained inactive, watching Jason secretly sell everything possible for cash, ultimately reaping the benefits without effort. Cindy clearly understood everything, but with no proof, she could only suffer in silence, impotently barking at the crowd, "Get lost. All of you get lost. This is my family's business, it's none of your damn concern." After the onlookers dispersed, I slowly approached Cindy, looking down at her in the wheelchair with a smirk. Angry? This is just the beginning, the real show is yet to come. Cindy was enraged, flailing toward me while spewing profanities. Prepared, I quickly jumped into the car and left. Before she reached me, the rearview mirror reflected her embarrassing fall due to mishandling the wheelchair. A passerby kindly offered help, but Cindy ungratefully hurled insults at them. With such a venomous mouth, if not you, who else would fall? Serves you right. Seeing her ingratitude, the passerby immediately turned and left. Watching Cindy sit on the ground like a stray dog, I smirked. Back home, I leisurely applied a face mask, took a bath, watched the latest variety show, and then slept with a steam eye mask. In the night, I was again awakened by pounding on the door. Opening it, I was startled by the dark-faced police outside. After a closer look, recognizing them from the morning, I appeared puzzled. Officer, after not seeing you for an afternoon, you seem much darker? The police speechlessly glanced at the pitch-black sky, took a deep breath. Why didn't you open the door again? I laughed in exasperation, showing my phone. Officer, look at the time, it's 3:30 a.m. The sky isn't even light yet. Of course, I was sleeping. Recalling that they too were supposed to be sleeping but were here due to this, the police's face darkened further. Your in-laws have accused you of murder. Please come with us to the station for investigation. I was stunned, realizing my in-laws who claimed to be vacationing abroad but were actually waiting for Jason and Cindy to join them for a family reunion had returned to the country. Realizing Cindy must have called to inform them of the situation, I quickly understood. Yet, I lazily yawned and asked, claims require evidence, do they have any? The police fell silent again. I continued, without evidence, I want to sue them for defamation. The police were speechless again, then took a deep breath. Yes, but it still must wait until this matter is cleared. Good, I believe the officers will vindicate me. The police asked me to return for assistance in the investigation. As a law-abiding citizen, I naturally agreed, and since the show had just begun, how could I miss it? At the station, my waiting in-laws pounced on me upon sight, cursing vehemently, Sophia, you black-hearted wretch. You refused to save him, causing my son to become a living dead. I'll kill you. I agilely hid behind the police, protesting injustice. All our family money was taken by your son and Cindy. Where would I get funds to save him? If you must blame someone, blame that vicious woman Cindy. If you have no money, why not sell the house? My mother-in-law Gloria asked brazenly, clawing toward me. While clinging to the police to dodge, I quickly retorted, do you think selling a house is that easy? If it were, your son and Cindy would have sold it long ago. Why wait for me? The police, dizzy from Gloria and my exchange, called 2 more officers to pull her away. Catching my breath, I immediately turned to the seated Cindy. The reason surgery couldn't happen you shouldn't ask me, but her. After all, the surveillance clearly shows your good son taking all the family money to find her. She knows best why the money is missing now. My father-in-law Leon and mother-in-law Gloria, hearing this, suspiciously looked at Cindy, as did the nearby police. Cindy, suffering in silence, shouted loudly, don't be deceived by this woman. Why would I hide the money? Jason and I truly love each other. Besides, he was taking me abroad, why would I hide it? Of course you have reasons to hide the money. First, having money in one's own hands is always better, this is certain. Second, you are 8 years younger than Jason, young, unmarried, and beautiful. Finally, with your excellent conditions plus money, what man couldn't you find? Why bother with a divorced older man? If I were you, I'd know how to choose. Through this rational analysis, my in-laws' gaze towards Cindy grew increasingly suspicious. Cindy hastily defended, Mom, don't listen to Sophia's nonsense. This is all her excuse to evade suspicion. The one who harmed Jason is definitely Sophia. I asked confidently, do you have evidence? Cindy naturally had none, but she turned to the police. I believe the officers will find the evidence. I was not panicked at all, even smiling slightly. Speaking of evidence, I have always had a doubt our car was just serviced last month. How could the brakes fail? No matter how I think, something seems off, so I suspect someone tampered with our car. I gave Cindy a meaningful glance, then sternly looked at the police. I hope you thoroughly inspect our car. I suspect intentional murder. Cindy was greatly alarmed. I had deliberately glanced at Cindy to show the police. At that moment, they noticed her panicked expression and glared. Cindy, what are you guilty about? I'm not guilty, I just suddenly, my leg hurt. Cindy dared not admit it and quickly made an excuse. I quietly watched her performance, then cooperated with the police by handing over all home surveillance footage. The videos clearly showed a man in a baseball cap sneaking into our courtyard the night before Jason and Cindy's accident, tampering with the car. The next morning, I went to the courtyard and tore off the blue car cover. The police asked why I tore the car cover. I said, the day before, when I drove out, I scraped it, damaging the cover. It annoyed me, so I tore it off planning to apply a new one. After answering, I leaned toward the monitor screen, pointing at the cap-wearing man who sneaked in at night. This man looks somewhat familiar. The police immediately became serious. Do you know him? After staring at the screen for a few seconds, I suddenly turned to Cindy. Miss Cindy, why are you sweating so much? Are you nervous? Cindy tried to compose herself. My leg hurts, is that not allowed? Of course your leg can hurt. But next, you need to think about how to explain to the police why your friend appeared at my house in the middle of the night. I directly faced the police, coldly stating, "Officer, this man is named Eric, Cindy's neighbor. As far as I know, Eric dropped out after junior high and became an auto mechanic." With a heartbroken expression, I looked at Cindy. "My husband was so good to you, yet you wanted to kill him. You have such a ruthless heart." "It wasn't me." Before Cindy could explain, Gloria slapped her hard. "You. My son was so good to you, yet you wanted to kill him. You venomous woman. I'll beat you to death." The police did not expect Gloria to suddenly attack Cindy. Reacting, they rushed to separate them. I quietly watched their infighting from the side, feeling immensely satisfied. Eric was soon apprehended by the police. With surveillance evidence, he could not deny it and finally admitted it was his doing, but told the police, "I intended to harm Sophia. Not Jason and Cindy. Indeed, he intended to harm me. Our family had 2 identical cars except for body color. Eric tampered with mine. But because I happened to remove the car cover, Jason mistook it and drove my car, suffering the accident in my place." After the truth emerged, Gloria, instead of confronting the culprit, clawed toward me. "Why did you tear the car cover? The one who should have died is you. My son was harmed by you." I laughed in anger at her words. "How much do you despise me? To ignore the real culprit and insist on splashing this dirty water on me?" Since Eric insisted the accident was his sole doing, unrelated to Cindy, the police could not charge her. But I would not let her off easily. Eric wanted me dead mainly to prevent me from sharing the property. Thus, I have more reason to suspect they stole our missing money. Officer, I demand a thorough investigation. Even without my saying, the police would investigate. They immediately sent people to search Eric's home. Since it required time with no immediate results, I left the station first and went to the hospital. With so much happening, how could I not go to the hospital to share the good news with Jason? When I mentioned Eric tampering with the brakes and me tearing the cover, causing him to drive the wrong car, Jason was so angry that tears came out. Having achieved my goal, I contentedly left the ward, only to be told by a nurse it was time to pay. I directly gave them my in-laws' phone number, instructing the hospital to collect from them, and left triumphantly. Just exiting the hospital, I encountered Cindy face to face. Seeing me, she gnashed her teeth. "You knew early on that Eric tampered with the car, so you deliberately tore the cover, right?" Seeing she was not foolish and realized so quickly, I scanned her body though seeing no listening devices. For safety, I raised an eyebrow. "Do you have evidence?" Seeing I did not fall for it, Cindy grew angrier. "Since you knew the car was tampered with, how could you let Jason take the money and elope with me? So the money was hidden by you, right?" Seeing her ask one foolish question was not enough and posing another, I was too lazy to answer, simply retorting, "I still say, claims need evidence. If you suspect me, let the police investigate. But before that, you'd better gather money quickly. Because I've sent someone to check Jason's bank records over the years, all the money he spent on you will be sent to you this afternoon. I'll give you 3 days to return it, if not, see you in court. That was given to me by Jason, why should I give it to you? That is Jason's and my marital property. I have the right to recover it." I was too lazy to argue further. The notice was given if she doesn't return it in 3 days, then court it is. The next day, right after waking, I received Gloria's call. I glanced at it, hung up, and silenced the phone. I knew what Gloria wanted, likely for me to pay Jason's medical fees, but now everyone knows Jason took all our money for Cindy. Where would I get funds? Calculating, over the years Jason gave his parents only 2 to 3 million, after expenses, probably less than half remains. But this time, Jason's surgery fees plus ICU's daily 10,000 yuan cost had already consumed 4 to 500,000 in a few days. Estimating their remaining money was low, I quietly waited for them to cut off their son's lifeline themselves. But before that, I received photos from a young nurse. On the day of Jason's accident, I deliberately added a young nurse on Facebook under the pretext of concern for him. Now, seeing Gloria and Cindy acting like mother and daughter, indignant, she sent me photos. Seeing Gloria had forgiven Cindy, I was somewhat surprised. But soon, I learned the reason. In court, Gloria accused me of not visiting the hospital even once, leaving my husband to fend for himself, saying if her son didn't divorce me, I'd kill him. To let him live longer, she sued for divorce on his behalf. I really wanted to say, your son is better off dead now, you might as well give him a quick end. Of course, this was just momentary anger. Deep down, I hoped Jason lived, as seeing him in a fate worse than death was immensely relieving. But in front of the judge, I confidently said, is it that I don't want to go to the hospital? Clearly, I dare not. You and the culprit who harmed your son twice reported me to the police, claiming I killed him. The day before yesterday, police found evidence that someone else harmed him, and the perpetrator is related to the culprit beside you, yet you keep bringing her in and out of the ward. How dare I go? I've done nothing, yet you splashed dirty water on me. If I went and something happened to your son, you'd blame me again. What then? You little bitch, you dare curse my son. Gloria rushed from the plaintiff's seat to attack me but was stopped and warned by the judge's gavel. At this moment, Cindy stood smugly. Sophia, stop making baseless accusations. The police have closed the case. It was Eric alone, unrelated to me by a cent. If you keep spouting nonsense, beware, I'll sue you for defamation. Oh, I'm so scared. I rolled my eyes skyward and sneered, but isn't this what I learned from you? How come you can spout nonsense without evidence, but I can't? I'll say it. What can you do to me? Cindy was infuriated by me, but the next second, she touched her belly and laughed. I won't argue verbally with you. Anyway, I wouldn't harm Jason, as I'm carrying the Fong family's only bloodline. Seeing Cindy's smug expression, I finally understood why Gloria forgave her. Despite such a severe accident, the child survived. Even I had to sigh that this child's life was remarkably tenacious. Have you done a paternity test? I asked directly. Cindy immediately raged. What nonsense are you spouting? Wouldn't I know whose child it is? Not necessarily. After all, there are men willing to kill for you. Who knows whose child is in your belly? I directly looked at Gloria and Leon nearby, meeting their suspicious gazes with a smug smile. Cindy also noticed Gloria's doubtful look, immediately grabbing her arm firmly. Mom, the child is definitely Jason's, believe me. Before Gloria could speak, I quickly interjected, words are no proof. With advanced technology now, doing a test is no trouble. Doing the test is not troublesome, but the fetus must be at least 11 weeks. Now Cindy is only 1 month pregnant, requiring nearly 2 more months. But I insisted, without test results, don't think about dividing the property. Actually, even without me saying, the court requires this. Seeing the judge on my side, I lazily stood. Since you can't produce it, wait until you can. Next time if I'm prepared, don't call me over. Wasting my time watching dramas is annoying. With that, I turned and left, leaving Cindy and Gloria furious yet helpless. 2 months later, with test results in hand, they smugly sued me again in court. The results are out. The child in my belly is Jason's. Now what will you do? Cindy's expression was utterly triumphant, as if victory was assured. I also smiled, turning directly to the judge. I have a test report here too. Cindy's face changed. What test report do you have? Mine was done at the city center. It's definitely real. I looked at her with a half smile. I didn't say your report is fake. Nor did I say mine is for the child in your belly and Jason. Cindy was confused by my words, soon reacting and asking puzzled, then whose report is yours? With a smile, I turned toward Gloria and Leon, sighing lightly. Originally, family scandals should not be aired publicly, but since marrying into the Fong family, I've heard more than once that my husband doesn't resemble his father. I've also heard how my mother-in-law was beautiful in her youth with countless suitors, so I couldn't help suspecting, perhaps my husband and father-in-law have no blood relation? Because this doubt lingered in my mind for so long, I took this opportunity to test them too. Indeed, you don't know until you do it. It's shocking. Guess what? My husband and father-in-law really have no blood relation. At this point, I looked at Gloria admiringly. Mom, you're still the best. Now I finally know who my husband inherited his infidelity from. It was your true legacy. But he's not as good as you, exposed so early, unlike you who concealed it for 30 years. Truly impressive. As I finished, my father-in-law nearly fainted from anger, backhanding my mother-in-law a hard slap. Gloria. You dared to cuckold me. The resounding slap made my scalp tingle. I quickly advised, Dad, this is a courtroom. Calm down. My father-in-law's face clearly read, I fucking can't calm down. He grabbed her hair and pummeled her face. Those nearby couldn't pull him off. Cindy, originally seated beside them, immediately wheeled back to a safe distance, looking deeply worried. She worried whether, in this situation, she could still get a share of the property. Watching from opposite, I was nearly clapping in joy. Seeing my mother-in-law about to be beaten unconscious, I urgently said, Dad, stop. You'll kill her. Besides, this is a courtroom. If you must fight, do it at home. How can you act in such a solemn place? The judge looked at me speechlessly, then furiously banged the gavel to stop the farce. You all, who exactly is suing for divorce? Is this marriage being dissolved or not? My father-in-law, still furious, upon hearing divorce, immediately shouted, Divorce. But it's me divorcing Gloria. You stinking bitch, deceiving me for so many years. I'll make you leave with nothing, compensate my mental damages, and the child-rearing costs. My mother-in-law was dumbfounded. She couldn't fathom how things turned this way. Seeing my father-in-law turn and stride away, she suddenly reacted and quickly chased his dad. Listen to my explanation. Midway, Cindy tried to approach. Mom, what about me? But my mother-in-law, overwhelmed, didn't glance at her and ran out directly. As for me? Cindy wanted to stay for property division, but Jason's money was missing. She couldn't divide what wasn't there. As for the remaining houses not sold by Jason, sorry, those were bought for me when the business started, as Jason's show of sincerity to my parents. The houses are in my name alone, my personal property, with Jason's video and waiver statement at the notary as proof. Cindy gets not a penny. Since discovering Jason's affair a year ago, I prepared for divorce. But then, the company and home money were in Jason's hands. I couldn't intervene, yet I naturally considered it all mine. After all, without my parents' financial and effort support initially, Jason would still be a poor boy from the countryside. Now prosperous thanks to my family, he ungratefully wants to discard me. Dream on. And Cindy, accepting my sponsorship yet damn well stealing my man, repaying kindness with enmity. Such an ungrateful woman, I must make them pay. Thus, I secretly planned, allying with my best friend and her husband to bribe partner companies, causing Jason losses. At the time, I just wanted Jason to spit out everything he got from me, but unexpectedly, he despicably tried to dump all debts on me and elope with Cindy. Since they were unjust, don't blame me for being unrighteous. I simply went all out, swapped the money box, and, knowing Eric tampered with the car, deliberately let Jason take the wrong one, causing the accident with Cindy. As for our company, I had long allied with my best friend's husband to secretly acquire it. Now most shares are in my hands. But since I don't understand business operations, I entrusted it fully to my best friend's husband. I just need to comfortably collect annual dividends. When the hospital urged payment again, and my mother-in-law, after divorcing my father-in-law and exhausting all savings, desperately approached me, I proactively proposed divorce. Although I lost some money, I believe after the divorce with debts split half, when creditors come knocking belatedly, the one crying will surely be my mother-in-law. The money was originally owed by Jason. Having met the wrong person, selling houses to clear my half of the debts is already benevolent. As for Jason's half? I'm divorced from him. What does it have to do with me? Even if I gave Gloria some money for the divorce, it was still a drop in the bucket for ICU's daily exorbitant fees. Realizing this wouldn't work, Gloria had to bring Jason home, alternating with Cindy to feed him liquids, clean his waste, exhausting themselves. Then one morning, Gloria woke to find all valuables taken by Cindy. She immediately reported to police, only to learn Cindy had another accident while fleeing, not only losing the child but also nearing death. When the doctor asked if to save her, Gloria unhesitatingly said, "No rescue. Send directly to the crematorium to grind bones and scatter ashes." When seeing the video sent by the young nurse, I was traveling with my best friend. At this time, with annual dividends of millions that I can't even spend, the 100 million in the home safe has no chance to be used. I wrote this story to tell all women meeting the wrong person is not, as long as you stop losses in time.